Hello, everybody. I came back on. I was on earlier, and what happened was I'm very new at going live stream. You have to change the setting. I didn't change the setting. That's why. If you clicked on it, you didn't see anything. So I thought I would come back on, and I thought I would talk a little bit more about current events because, let's see, according to the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Browser, she said that we have to still adhere to the lockdown policies and social distancing. So she's basically telling us this because we have a special celebration coming up that we, as Americans, enjoy very much. Celebrating in the fact that we're Americans and that we're free. We can't celebrate that. We can't celebrate the Constitution or the Civil Rights. We can't blow off firecrackers or have barbecues. Be happy and celebrate our freedom and meet with friends, get together. And this would mentally, not just physically, but mentally, we need to do this. We need to come together as Americans and we need to celebrate and have fun. This entire summer is going to go by. And what's going to happen? The lockdowns are going to come back because it's okay to tear down, according to all these, and Lori Lightfoot, who's the mayor of Chicago, and we know how well that city goes. She's a public figure. She had to get her hair done, and she takes her personal hygiene very seriously, like the rest of us don't. She has to have her hair cut. She can't do it herself, she said. And Chris Cuomo is singing the praises about how this is how the country started in outrage and protest and loud and noise and all these protests and riots that are tearing down this country. This is how it started. Well, first of all, we didn't tear anything down. We fought the British because we had enough of it when the British, King George, said that we could no longer have guns. It was the whole thing. They were about to take our guns away because they didn't want us to protest. Well, they didn't want us to gain independence by fighting them. So it's kind of interesting what's going on. And of course, Chris Cuomo is an idiot, but as long as you're tearing down America, that's a good thing. And you're painting Black Lives Matter on the street in front of the White House to make it not the most attractive thing in the world. Put a sign up, that's fine. Take a park, put the sign there. No. So basically what it's saying is, we know Black Lives Matter, Black Lives do matter, but the organization is wants to bring on Marxism. It has nothing to do with the title. How can anyone disagree with the title? Of course, we say all lives matter, but how can anyone disagree with the title that Black Lives Matter? Of course, Black Lives Matter, but when you put it in those terms, instead of life has an intrinsic sacredness to it. When you say Black Lives Matter, it means something else doesn't matter. You make it negotiable. So those terms kind of destroy the meaning that we think we're hearing. But the whole title is just, the title is a facade of an organization that wants to destroy America. And it seems like all these governors and mayors, and Phil Murphy, remember, of New Jersey, said that couldn't go to church, but all liquor stores were open. You could drink. And he even said, which was extremely intelligent, that leaders of faith would agree with this. Yes, drink yourself silly because you can't go to church and you can't worship God, and you can't see your friends, and you can't do things that bring the family together. No, you have to destroy religion, because that's what that's what Marxism does. That's what communism does. You have to destroy the country. It's okay to do that. And what's her, Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., she joined in on the protests, on those riots that in Washington, D.C., to basically take down the country. And she's out there now saying that we cannot celebrate the 4th of July. We have to still abide by these rules. Okay, when it comes to the 4th of July, that's when everybody's going to get sick. But when it comes to the riots that's going to tear down this country and make us all hate each other, that's not going to make us sick. As we know that there's like, was it 21 medical experts signed this document saying that racism is a sickness, so these riots are good. But lo and behold, now there's a new outbreak of this COVID across the country after these riots. After these riots, with thousands of people going into the streets, people screaming loudly, chanting, which causes a lot of moisture pockets to leave your mouth. And that's how COVID is spread. But COVID is the more I hear about it, it is the most, hi there, Joe Dirt, and Earthman Brick. I haven't seen you in ages. It's good to see you again. What was I saying? God, I see you two guys. No, I forgot. I forgot what I was saying. It was about religion. I gotta go back. Where it's here. Tearing down the country. That racism, the 21 medical professionals that signed a document that said racism, the pockets of moisture. Because when you scream and yell, that's how the thing is spread. Yes, this is what I was getting to. We're finding out now that we're doing more tests, so it seems like more people have it. But they say that the number of tests that we've taken so far, you have to times that by 10. So it's about 35 million people they think have COVID. And most of them is all asymptomatic, which means they're showing no symptoms. And now they've figured out that it's much less contagious than the flu. The flu is more contagious, and the death rate from the flu is higher than COVID. Somehow the more I hear about this, first they told us all these stories, this is what it does, and this is what it is, and this is how bad it is. But now most people get it. It's been probably here since last fall, because they said in Santa Clara County, over half of the population had had it already, because they had the antibodies for instance in California. It's been here for a long time, and people had no idea. It seems like, well, the problem is that we have these leaders that claim that they follow science. And these are the same ones who believe in the climate change, claims that we don't follow science, but they follow science. Yet racism is a much worse disease than COVID is. That's a killer disease. Yes, these riots in the streets are killing people. Absolutely. More people are dying from these riots. More people are dying because of lockdown, because we're hating each other, because we're so afraid that our neighbor is going to give us this COVID thing. This whole thing is creating so much destruction. It's almost like it's getting to a point where this disease is unbelievable. asymptomatic. Most people are asymptomatic. About 35 million people have it and don't know that they have it. And global warming is now climate change. And the Earth was a lot hotter when the dinosaurs were here for 250 million years, and the carbon levels were 5 times higher. And there were tropical forests in the Arctic and Antarctic because we have it fossilized. So heat and an Earth, a globe that has no snow and no cold, apparently is okay because those dinosaurs really thrived and vegetation really thrived. But science is whatever they tell us it is, not what it actually is. And what we learned that carbon dioxide is a nutrient. And it feeds plants. It's a nutrient. It grows more plants, so there's more to eat. So if the poor people of this world need food, the higher the carbon levels, the better, I guess. But they also found out for the Vostok ice core samples, and you can look this up, shows that carbon levels rise after a warming period, not before. Carbon is not the cause of warming periods. So you have to really look away from science. And now they're telling us to celebrate the 4th of July. We can't celebrate the 4th of July. Don't do it because you're going to make everyone sick and die. And this thing is never going to go away. But if you go in the streets and you protest and you burn things down, you loot, you smash, you beat your fellow Americans up, you spread disinformation that people of a certain skin color are the ones where all evil comes from, when scientifically we know having a lot of melanin or a little melanin in your skin does not cause the soul to be good or evil. That's the independent decision of that particular soul. It's absolutely insane. I think we're getting to a point where we really just need to celebrate. We need to celebrate, and we need to say, all right, we'll wear masks, but masks only stop the transmission. 30 to 40% at the most stops the transmission with the mask. I don't know, but all I know is that we get the cold and the flu every year. And every time the cold and the flu comes, and I get all sorts of things. Sometimes I get things that I go to the doctor. Oh, no, you can't give you antibiotics. That's some kind of thing in your sinuses, and it's going into your lungs, and you can't breathe, and you're coughing up all this. Just go get Mucinex. There's no cure for the things that we get every year. Just go get Mucinex. Yeah. And that as an asthmatic could kill me very, very quickly. And so this COVID thing that is most of the time asymptomatic, thinking about this any longer my brain is going to split in half. We have to be Americans. We have to celebrate the freedoms of this country. Our Bill of Rights is for everyone. Once you tear down the system, you're going to tear all our rights down. We will have no rights. We will have no constitution. There will be nothing. So your rights are completely taken away. And if you're a minority and you think that this country is bad to minorities, right now you have a Bill of Rights. You have rights that are given to you by God that no man can take away, except a communist state. If you destroy that Bill of Rights that says your rights are given to you by your creator, and you change it to a communist state, that means your rights are given to you by man. The government will decide what rights you have or not, which means you're not going to have any rights. Don't destroy a thing. It doesn't matter how imperfect the founding fathers were. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution are precious. They're good. They're right. Some say, and I just want to clear this up historically, because it's actually very important. I really should put it in a video that's not like this. But they say that slaves were considered not in the founding documents, not 100% human. And it actually doesn't mean that. The reason why that you didn't count them as full citizens is because the North needed the South, as we're a republic. So a republic represents the minorities. The minorities have a voice. A democracy, it's the majority rule. So if the majority says enslave all white people, then you will enslave all white people, and you have a democracy. But if the South counted every slave that they had as a citizen, that means the South would have more representatives, and they would have a louder voice in Congress and the Senate, which means the louder voice would be the voice of slavery, to keeping the institution of slavery. That's the reason why they said you can't count them as full. Not that they're not full human beings, but they can't be counted in the census. Therefore, you'll get another representative that's not going to be representing the slaves. The representative will be representing the plantation owners. People don't understand this, and they keep repeating on that Blacks were not considered full human beings. And that's not true. This is extremely important. There's so many details about the founding of our nation and all the documentation before the Civil War began. And we had to fight it because when this country was founded, our founding fathers, and a lot of them just completely smack dab against slavery. They said, this is not America. America cannot be founded on slavery. We have to get rid of this institution. This institution was started by England, first of all. England finally got rid of it. William Wilberforce, thank you to that. But they're the ones who did have it before we had it, and they inserted instilling it into our country. And the first slave owner in America, Anthony Johnson, was Black, was from Africa. But in Africa, they've had slaves since the dawn of time. That's what they do. And to this day, they're committing genocide against each other, tribes against tribes. And to this day, let's see, about 7 years ago, there was, according to walkfree.org, there was 43 million slaves in the world. And Africa had 7 million, Africa alone. Black Africans owning other Black Africans, and sex slavery too. And it was the Arabians 1,400 years ago. I'm not going to get too deep into this. That started the slave trade. And about 200 million African slaves were killed. I'm not going to go down that road too much, but I'm just telling you that America had it for a couple hundred years. The South didn't want to give it up, even though when this country was founded, they said 20 years. We'll give you 20 years to get rid of it. And starting on day one, they didn't. So we had to go to war we had to fight a war with ourselves. And 600,000, mostly white young men, and also women died. I mean, everybody got killed in the Civil War, died to free the slaves. But there's this fictitious story going out saying that it was the slaves that freed the slaves. And that isn't true. We have enough documentation of the Civil War to know that. But there was a Black contingent that did fight. They were a part, of course, absolutely. But the majority was white. doesn't mean the majority. It doesn't mean anybody is better than anybody else. Thank God it was abolished. But we had to do it because the Democrats, didn't give it up. Now, recently I had some comments, very bad comments, on my little video on Eliyahu Yale, the guy who started Yale, or he was the biggest contributor to Yale University. And because I was kind of snide or snub or sneering or something like that, my attitude was, yeah, I'm disgusted with this man. And the fact that I'm disgusted with the fact that you're bringing everything down, yet you're not demanding that Yale change its name, nor Robert C. Byrd. He was a slave trader, and he owned slaves, and he beat slaves, and he beat the slaves on the way over to this country. He beat them on the ships, and he hung a 16-year-old boy for stealing a tool from him. He was evil, but now you're not changing that. You're not. I think Princeton might be taking down Woodrow Wilson's name, because Woodrow Wilson was a KKK sympathizer, of course. He showed Birth of a Nation in the White House. Birth of a Nation is the story of the KKK rebirthing this nation into a white supremacist, slave-owning country. And of course, Woodrow Wilson was a Democrat, that. And so was the KKK, and so was Jim Crow. But the Democrats are very effectively erasing their history, what they did. And we know that Robert Byrd died in 2011, Grand Exalted Cyclops of the KKK. Obama put his statue up in the Capitol Rotunda. Obama eulogized him, so did Bill Clinton. That's 2011. And he filibustered against civil rights. He was up all night long, filibustering on the Senate floor against civil rights and also the Voting Rights Act. And this is the guy who they put, and nobody's tearing it down. So you're tearing down, or they're tearing down, the proof that this party is still the party of the KKK. And you're tearing down the Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt and people who, Republicans, where the African American and Native American were equal and respected. And Teddy Roosevelt is the first environmentalist, because he designated lands all over this nation. He went to find the most beautiful pieces of land that no one should build on, and it should be a wildlife reserve. They should be wild places with the beauty of the waterfalls, the animals, the geysers. He's the one who did that, and you would think that these Democrats who care so much about the environment, yet, you see, it shows the Republicans in a good light, and you must tear that down too. We're a little bit upset at Trump, quite upset at Trump. Actually, I don't understand why these riots and the burning down of the cities and people breaking in and looting and destroying all these privately owned businesses, which are the hallmark of America. Once those go down, it's a perfect recipe what's going on. Not only did you make everyone stir crazy for all these months, locking us down, and it was thank you to the Democrat mayors and governors for that. But once you destroy all these mom and pop shops, private ownership, first of all, you cannot rebuild them. because the insurance companies will not insure your business. The business can never be rebuilt again. Because now those territories, the places where those businesses were, are now high-risk zones. That's why Detroit, after the riots, after Martin Luther King was killed, Detroit, most of the Detroit is just like a desert. It's like 3/4 of it is gone. And it used to be, as far as manufacturing goes, that was the king of cities as manufacturing goes. People were employed all over that city, and it was doing really well. But to this day, Detroit is mostly dead because of that, because no one will, whether you want a house or you want a business, insurance will not insure you, because once these riots, Baltimore is the same way, any of these cities where all these riots have struck are now dead zones. And also the police are afraid to go out and do anything because they're afraid that they're going to be accused of something they may or may not have done. What's essentially happening now? Notice that they're not, these Marxists aren't going against Google or Amazon, any of these big corporations. It's only the little businesses. It's the business owned by the regular Americans that are moving up from poverty to middle class, and from middle class, and should there be more minorities owning businesses and reaching the middle class is a springboard to go up, to be in higher class than the middle class, making more money. So if the minorities get to that point, they can go up. Minorities, anybody gets to that point. That's your springboard to go up. So if you destroy this and you only have the big corporations, then you are dependent on the government, just like we had all these checks coming out. You're dependent on the government for all your food, all your clothing. And what did Bernie talk about? The deodorants. He had a problem with deodorants. There are too many deodorants. Because he said, well, you see, in communist countries, they decide what the deodorant does, what the packaging looks like, and they decide how many are made. The government decides everything. So if you destroy our businesses, and now they can no longer be rebuilt, you've destroyed America. Now we're dependent on the government, and the government will only make so much. The government can only make so much. That's communism. And so some people get food, some people don't get food. You can't stand in the line because you're too old, or you're too sick, or you're disabled, or you were busy with your child was sick, and then you weren't able to make it to the front of the line. What happens? Anybody at the end of the line doesn't get food. That's what happens. And then you call the population off. And that goes with clothing, that goes with everything else. We're destroying all our businesses. This lockdown has destroyed private business. By doing that, you've destroyed what America is. America created, capitalism created mobility, no matter how much the Marxists hate it. Mobility from poverty up. It's great to be a middle class. I hope for no more than that. That would be great. But if you want to go higher, that's the springboard. And that's what capitalism has done for America. And you see all these businesses that were owned by African Americans or poor African Americans, that because of COVID, the buses aren't running. They can't even go to another town to get there. All the businesses are destroyed because of the riots, and they can't even get on a bus to go to a different town to get what they need. They're completely helpless. How does this help the African Americans and poor minorities? How does it help? I had a friend that I know, very highly educated, and I wrote him and said, what is happening? Because he was learned how to be a shaman. He learned some healing practices from me. I taught him some stuff in the beginning. And then he went and learned some more shamanistic things, but he's actually a psychologist or hypnotherapist is what he actually is. And he said, I hope the protesters win, these rioters win, because we got to get Trump out of office. Because I wrote him, I said, minorities are suffering from this. What's going to happen to them? Oh, I hope the protesters win. I hope the rioters win and Trump isn't reelected. And I always thought this man had compassion for minorities. If you want, and I had another friend today who's highly educated say the same thing. Basically, they want this to continue. Like Bill Maher said, this country has to have a recession to get Trump out of office. It's the only way. Well, he can say that. He's wealthy. But even these people, they get along well. I should say they get along well. The hypnotherapist has made some good money. Very highly, his daughters are very intelligent too. And it was because of moving to this country. They weren't born in this country. They came to this country. And they moved up in the world and are now well off. But they want the country destroyed. They want the man that created all these jobs where the minorities and women had more jobs than any time in history. Unemployment was practically nothing. This country was doing too well. They had to destroy it. And this is how you do it. The lockdown, the destruction of the middle class. That's how you destroy America. And that's how you destroy. Then you're back to your monarchy, or you're back to your authoritarianism or totalitarianism or communism, because you've got everybody at the bottom. Everybody's poor. And then basically you got your dictator at the top, or the one with all the money, or a group of special communists, authoritarians at the top. And what system? You just have a two-tiered system, and it's basically a pyramid. But you've got the one at the top, you've got the bin. They call that the top of the pyramid is the bin stone, or pyramidium. But Egyptians called it the bin stone. And then you have everybody at the bottom, at the base of the pyramid. That's poor. Just like in ancient China, when they were building the pyramids for the emperors, they built them out of dirt, and people were enslaved even before it turned communism. If you were on a certain class system at the lower class, and you worked to build these pyramids, see, the tomb would be underneath, and then the pyramid would be made out of dirt, and all day long they just pounded the dirt so it was solid, and you did that all day until you had a heart attack. And then they had a ditch dug on the side of that dirt pyramid. And they just kicked you over into the ditch because you were dead, and they buried you in a mass grave. That's pretty much like what most of us will be at. That's pretty much like a communist system. You work until you're dead, and then you're kicked to the bottom. Or you're alive, but you're at the bottom. You're under the pyramid. I heard Trump on that town hall, and he did address the whole situation, because people wanted to see him come in with law and order. I swear to God, if I was the president, by gum, I would send the troops in. And if the governor or mayor rejected it, I would have it on film, and I'd say, look, people, they rejected it, but I sent them in. But the problem is Obama destroyed the military, and now it's Democrat, and all these all these generals who are retired and now working for the MSM or military industrial complex don't like him. It's all about money and power. Even the generals, which you thought that our military was, there was something very noble about the military, because it was the military, it was the militias that created that fought for this country, that we would be free from tyranny. He said that we have a lot of them on tape, a lot of these, when they're tearing down statues and doing all this, we have it on film, and apparently hundreds have been arrested, he said. But why, my question is, why did you let it happen to begin with? Is it that the coup is so strong against Trump? We've seen over the years, none of you are ignorant to what's happened, and everything's been proven a lie. They just have to take him down. Everything has been proven a lie. I wonder if he knows that basically the military has said to him, it's Democrat rule now, that they won't do anything, that there's really nothing he can do, because the coup, they've taken over. There's far more of him. You saw from the Russia thing, and when the first day he was in office, they knew it wasn't true. They had the evidence that it wasn't true. Mueller had the evidence the first day he was in office. He saw that it wasn't true. There's evidence that it wasn't true. And this Ukraine call is the stupidest one of them all. This is really big. And we have to be strong. We have to vote to the best of our ability to who we think is going to be preserve this nation. We have to stand strong, because we stand strong together. We stand together, or we hang together, or we can hang apart. We have to stand strong together, and we have to vote the right people in. So I feel like I am going to go on, I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to send the National Guard in, or that's it. Like, you just want to go in there and you want to fix it. You want to do what should be done. But the man is still alive in office, and all these people hate him, is a miracle in itself. If you believe in God, I'd say pray. Pray together with your families. Stand strong with your families together. Don't break up and divorce. Don't quibble and argue over stupid things. We argue we get so, we're so stir crazy now. And sometimes we get peeved on the stupidest little things. And then our families break apart. Strong families will create a strong nation. That's how this nation is strong. Not a bunch of single parents and divorced people where the children grow up and they end up getting arrested. They never go to college, or they don't go to trade school. That's what destroys a nation. When you destroy the family, you destroy a nation. And that is what BLM, the charter of BLM, is the communist charter. I know this because the guy I dated 5 years ago. So he talked about is how it should be like in Africa, where the village raises the kids, not the parents. A bunch of people raise the kids. There isn't a nuclear family. And that's what they're pushing towards. It's called Black Lives Matter. And none of us can say that you say Black Lives don't matter. That's a terrible thing. But it's really Marxism. It's totally in disguise. Animal Farm, that's right. Happy Saturday night. Thank you, Kyle Winfrey. I'll read all these things after, especially afterwards. But that is the key. that we should be good neighbors, we should be forgiving, we should tolerate stupid things. Yes, women get hormonal. It's good to know what time of the month it is, so you know if why you're getting depressed or you're getting anxious. And usually I say, "Oh God, that's right. Okay, I got it." And then boom, then I feel better. These little things throw us off, and we break up. Families break up over stupid things, and we can't do that. We have to stay together. And if we could go to church and worship together, but they've told us that that isn't good. We should, the liquor stores, we should go to the liquor stores, and the pawn shops are open. That's going to really help this nation stay together, especially when our minds, when we've numbed ourselves out, so we can't see the fact that we're in prison. You see, we'll see the bars if we don't numb ourselves out, and they don't want us to see the bars. But I'd rather be clear-headed and see what's imprisoning me, so we can stand strong and stand against it and fight against it. So God bless everyone. Hi Agent 777. That's Artie, that's his name. He was my 777th subscriber. So he's Agent 777. Hello there, Ian. Let's see. It's good to see you again, Earthman Brick. And Three Stooges, hello there. Three Stooges is always has been so far the first every time I upload a video. Three Stooges is there first. I know he says first. So God bless everyone, and stand strong with your religion, with your faith, and with your family. And if God can't fix this, then no one can. If anything, God can fix this. Except we have to let God be God. And don't put limitations on God. Don't say, well, maybe not. God can't do everything. We can't ask for everything. People suffer in other parts of the world. Why am I asking? You know, a strong America helps the rest of the world. We were the beacon of freedom in the world. We were the example of freedom and unalienable rights. Rights given to us by our Creator that cannot be taken away by a man. That needs to stand strong. If that stands, there is an example in the world. If there are borders, there's an example in the world. If there are no borders and it's worldwide communism, there's no country to run to. There's no example. There's no example on a country that treats their women very well, because a lot of countries treat women very badly. That's why I think the whole Pussy Hat movement should go over. I'll tell you what countries to go to, and go protest there and see what happens. The reason why you people protest here is you people, you know who I'm talking about. Protest here because you can. You can just pull down statues. You can yell racist. You can do this here. Try doing it in any other country but here. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens to you. But we are the example. That's why America shouldn't fall. America needs to stand strong so we can be the example to the world. And we can open, as we always do, open up our arms to asylum seekers and people who want to come here from their country. But most of all, I think we need to export the idea of freedom, of rights, of the rights given to us by God, our Creator. That's what needs to be exported. That's what America should do, is be emissaries to the world and teach the world capitalism, prosperity. In India, it wasn't until capitalism was injected into India, people are so poor there that sometimes they wouldn't eat at all, or maybe they would eat one meal. when capitalism came over to India, and they didn't have any regulations, everybody started to make something, soap, lotions, all sorts of stuff, and incense, beautiful silk with gold embroidery, and they exported it to the world. And once India started doing that, people started moving up. The more they started moving up in society, they have a caste system, and you can never be a Brahmin if you're born down here. But the more money people made, the more education they got, now they're seen equal to the Brahmins. It actually destroyed the caste system. That's how good capitalism is. It's not perfect, but look what it did to a system that you never thought would break, because it's a religious system. It's born of the Vedas. It's ingrained. Everybody's got the Bili on their forehead to see, so they know you can't intermarry anybody from a lower class or an upper class or upper caste. But so I'll leave you with these thoughts, and I really, I would love to look at all these wonderful, wonderful comments. I don't think I've ever gotten so many, and I'm going to read every single one of them. God, I hope the last one that I did, it kind of erased everything, and I had to make a copy of it, and the original disappeared. I don't know what's going on, but I hope I get to keep this. Anyway, thank you so much for showing up, and stay strong. Really stay strong, and pray. I've got my little book here under my pillow. It's like a purple pillow. I have this book of Psalms here, and I read some Psalms last night. I've got it underneath my pillow. So read the Bible and look towards God, whatever religion that you follow. Believe that God will help, because if you believe that God won't, you've already destroyed the prayer. God will. God will. Good night, and God bless all of you. Okay. Good night, everyone.